Well, hey, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. Welcome to Geometry, Section 3.4b. So in Section 3.4a, we talked about parallel and perpendicular. We know that parallel lines have the same slope. We know that perpendicular lines have an opposite or negative reciprocal slope. So 3.4b, we're going to go ahead and we are going to write equations. Notice the little objective here. Write equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So to write an equation, the first thing you need to know or need to be told or need to solve for is finding the slope. That is the number one most important thing out of everything in this section is if you don't know the slope, you cannot go forward. So make sure you have the slope. I can't say how important that is. Use the slope formula, use your parallel and perpendicular lines information. You have to know the slope. Next thing, remember, use that parallel and perpendicular information. Hey, if you are an abbreviator, feel free to use the symbol for parallel and the symbol for perpendicular and the M for slope if you prefer, as long as you understand what it is that you are writing down. You don't have to write out full sentences. There's two ways to do these problems. In section 3.4a, we used the point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals the slope times the difference of x minus x1. Remember, we plugged in information. We need the slope. That's why we need to find it. We put in an ordered pair, x and y, 1 and 1. And then we went ahead and distributed and solved for y. That can be your go-to. A lot of people get that way. It seems easy. Distributive properties super easy. Add or subtract to get y by itself. Because down here I'm going to mention all of your answers should be in slope-intercept form or y equals mx plus b. So if you like that way, awesome. If you are kind of at a different level, or maybe that's confusing, or you want to try something new, a lot of people like this way. Y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. So we do something similar. We'd plug in the slope, and then we'd plug in the ordered pair x, y. So we put it in place of that. If we do that, that means that we are figuring out what is b. Once we know b, we can go back to putting variables in the variable spot, and we'll put in the m and the b. So you use slope-intercept form to find b, and then use m and b in the equation. X and y go back to being variables. For some people, that's a little bit more confusing. I'll do like one of each or something just so that if you want to try the other way, you can. But again, when in doubt, if you ask me, I'm going to say, if you're a little bit confused about the y equals mx plus b method, go to the y minus y1. Use your point slope formula. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So there's a little bit of sneakiness in these problems. Geometry has a tendency to be sneaky. So number one says, write an equation in slope-intercept form of a line that passes through the point 3, 2 and is parallel to the line whose equation is y equals 2x plus 5. Couple important things. We've got an ordered pair, right? x1, y1, or an xy if you're going to use the other way. The other important thing to look for, parallel. Look in these problems for the word parallel or perpendicular. It's parallel, to this line. So what I would ask you is, in this line over here, y equals 2x plus 5, what is the slope? Well, we know that in slope-intercept form, the number in front of the x is always our slope, so m equals 2. Now that we have that, and we know that it's parallel, so it's going to be the same slope, m equals 2. Now I'm going to take a big red marker, and I'm going to cross this out. Once you pick out that slope and you change it or keep it the same, whether it's parallel or perpendicular, you don't care about that plus 5, you don't care about that equation. We only needed that for the slope. So only slope. Then you're done with it, cross it out, get rid of it. So now it says, basically, I'm going to write an equation with a slope of 2 and a point at 3, 2. So I'll do the y minus y1 equation. So y minus 2 equals the slope times x minus x1. All of my answers, remember, I want in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute and solve for y. So my final answer for this equation that is parallel to that equation that I don't even know what it is anymore and has the 0.32 is going to be y equals 2x minus 4. Final answer. If you wanted to do it the other way, let me just show you both of them on this case. If you wanted to do this the y equals mx plus b way, I still start out the problem the same. I still pick out the slope. I keep it the same because it's parallel. I still cross out that equation. I don't care about it anymore. But now I'm going to put in the m, and I'm going to put numbers in for x and y. If this seems confusing to you, don't even write it down. Just sit for a minute, get through this. If you like that y minus y1 way, do it that way. I want to offer an option. Some people like it. So my y is 2 equals my slope 2 times 3 plus b. So 2 equals 6 plus b, so I'm going to subtract 6. b equals negative 4, right? So same. And then I'm going to just go ahead and go back to mx plus b. X and y become variables again, so y equals the slope of 2 times x minus 4. Same answer, different way to get it, whichever way makes the most sense to you. So you pick what works best. I would say probably 3/4 of the people just stick with the y minus y1 equation. There's always a few people who like to try something different, or it seems fine. Sometimes people get confused putting the x's and y's back in for the very last step. So let's do one, let's skip number 2. Actually, let's just talk about number 2 for a second. Write an equation. It has to pass through negative 3, 4. It's parallel to the line whose equation is that. Notice I purposely wrote this equation in a different form. So first of all, parallel is important, right? Here's my ordered pair, x1, y1. And here's my equation over here. The only thing I need this equation for is the slope. Well, it looks to me like it's in point slope form. It's got those parentheses, y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. I don't care about anything except for my slope is 2/3. Now that I've got that, I'm going to take a big marker, I'm going to cross it out, and then I'm going to go over here and think, okay, so if it's parallel, my slope has to stay the same, 2/3. I've got my ordered pair x and y. So only reason I wanted to mention that was because it's got a different form to pick the slope out of. I want to do number 3 though. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. It's got to pass through 7, 3 and is perpendicular to the line whose equation is, so here's my point, perpendicular, and here's my equation. This one is also in point slope form. Hopefully from that last one you can see pretty quickly. My m is whatever's in front of the parentheses. So m equals negative 7/8. Now that I've got that, I can cross it out. And when I go back over to here, perpendicular, so it doesn't stay the same, right? Perpendicular is the opposite and reciprocal. So if my original slope was negative 7/8, my new slope that's perpendicular is going to be 8/7, and that's going to be a positive. Remember, the sign can go on the top, the bottom, or out in front. So now I can go ahead with my equation, y minus y1. Don't be scared by the fractions. Here's my x and y, 1 and 1. So y minus 3 equals 8/7 with an x minus 7. If you want to do it the other way, you're going to do y equals mx plus b, and you're going to plug in a 3 equals the slope times the x value plus b. Any way it goes, you're going to get the same equation. Do whichever one makes you happier. I'm going to quickly solve these two. Pick one, do it one way. Unless you want to have an example of both, just do it one way. Figure out what works best for you. Give me 1 second and I'll get these guys all solved. So I did these both ways. Any way it goes, I still got a y equals 8/7 is the slope x with a -5. Pick the way that makes the most sense to you. I think that should be good. Oh, I do want to talk about the slope for number 4, because this one pops up a lot, so bear with me on this one. Blah, blah, blah. It's got to pass through 4, 1. It's going to be perpendicular to the line whose equation is -x plus 3. So the thing that I care most about, remember, I've got to go over here and say m equals something. What's m equal to? -x. Remember, if there is no number, it's going to be -1. Now that I've got that slope of -1, I'm going to cross that guy out. And I'm going to go over to here, perpendicular. Whoa, let me try that again. Here we go. Perpendicular to that. So perpendicular, negative reciprocal. So flip it over and change the sign. Well, -1 is just -1/1, right? My board's going crazy all of a sudden. If I flip that over, it's going to be +1/1, or just a +1 for my new slope. And then I can go to my x, y, 1, and 1. There we go. That is section 3.4b. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you become an expert at these equations. Bring your questions with you so we can talk about them if you get stuck. Thanks so much. See you next time.